So we have the first speaker of the session, Iran Liu, speaking about Spectra, choosing your experts enhances critical thinking, multi-agent research ideation. So he's coming from UIUC. I'm very pleased to welcome Iran as the speaker.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, I think we can probably get started. And yeah, so my name is Yuran Liu, as Professor Ol has just introduced, and I'm a fifth-year PhD student from the University of Illinois, and it's I'm honored to be here to be presenting my work, our recent work called Spectra. So this work essentially a from the domain of mostly from the domain of human-computer interaction is AI work. I think it's probably going to be a little bit different from most of the work that has been presented here in the series. So hopefully it's more like a refreshing breeze rather than, the one that brings, more confusion than that. But yeah, I'm really happy to do the presentation here and let's get started. So um, the the modern scientific research method has led for the development of like newer knowledge and like a discovery of new knowledge and technology that has transformed society at large. Traditionally, human researchers would first need to collect background information, knowledge, coming up with a set of hypotheses or research ideas, then construct a evaluation procedure, conduct experiments and collect evidence, and finally assess and communicate their findings through drafting manuscripts and publications. And after that, the resulting manuscript will usually undergo peer review and subsequently also iterations of refinement before the final publication. And given the recent ability of large language models, especially large reasoning models, to conduct multi-step reasoning that allows researchers to build complex systems that can support even more stages of the research life cycle. Some of the later research attempt to also try to automate the whole process as well, including conducting experiments and evaluations, even sometimes in a physical setting as well, or even draft the papers and report and create visualizations of the experimental outcomes. And but still, I would like to raise a question about whether it is worth considering. There are potential risks and concerns of fully automating the whole research process. And so the question I'll be throwing out is like, if there is a perfect system that allows researchers to automate the whole process of research without having the need of inviting human participation, as a researcher, you could just take the credits from the research output from such systems without putting any efforts into the process where you really use such a system. Of course, you probably already guessed that my answer to that question is no from the human-centric perspective. And that is also essentially what this research, the motivation of this research I'll be talking about aims to discuss. And if we go from a human-centric perspective to look at this problem again, there are actually several potential concerns and issues regarding the current research automation system that aims to completely automate the whole research lifecycle. That includes like the overlooking the value of human creativity, and there are also potential domain disparities in research capabilities in most different large language models currently, and also by completely automating the process, we run risk of hindering the explainability and also the opportunities of human learning as like mostly for junior researchers, but also for more senior researchers as well. And that basically these kind of issues bring us to an overarching problem that we might want to discuss, which is how to design a human-centric AI system that can better support research ideation. And so coming back to the problem, recently there has been development of research around the topic of multi-agent systems. And that basically, when we think about that problem, this naturally connects to when we talk about the need or the common practice of having multiple researchers gathering around discussing about a particular research topic or research idea during the ideation phase or even the later phase of the research. And it's actually many past studies or research have shown that it's important to have this kind of interdisciplinary exchange or research discussion for many reasons, including like having such discussions can bring about serendipitous discoveries of previously unplanned results, and also discussing findings and existing research from different domains can help researchers avoid reinventing the wheel due to unknown knowledge from different domains they are probably not initially familiar with, and also interdisciplinary research exchange or discussions can also be a learning opportunities for research from the different background. There actually have been several research recently. There actually has been a line of research recently that trying to explore the use of large models or large ML agents or sometimes multi-agent systems that helps facilitates these kind of like interdisciplinary knowledge discovery or for information seeking processes. And one of the probably one of the recent works that is more representative is the one that is called Storm, and later on there's a follow work called CoStorm that uses multi-agent systems that develops a multi-agent system to help sort of like explore research topic with a combination of both ideation and also knowledge gathering and discovery, similar to a deep research setting. But in this case, the whole process is interactive, where the user can give a query initially and also refine the query later on by providing follow-up queries, and the final results are compiled into sort of like a long report, similar to a deep research process. But this types of system designs actually still have potential drawbacks, including the user have to spend time reading the report, and also that brings potential high cognitive load. And there is this difficulty for users to actually track discussion context and discussion dynamics amongst the agents, since it's a multi-agent systems. And the last but not least kind of concern is that when reading the report, it's mostly the user reading the report being a passive intake of knowledge rather than actually critically evaluating or thinking about the whole information gathering and thinking process. And so that basically we're trying to tackle the three mentioned the potential issues or drawbacks from existing design. And the one inspiration we took was from the prior research discussing, related to studying the online forum design. You can think about this as forums that either can be socially driven forums, or forums like Reddit, or knowledge-driven ones like Quora, and etc. And even there are also online forums that are dedicated for research discussion, like ResearchGate. They have a online forum where the researchers can actually discuss their work or questions around the work as well. So basically, there has been a lot of research around this topic in the past and recently as well. And they actually mentioned that this kind of design form design can support collaborative ideation, and also it can be potentially used as an interaction design to support context tracking and sense making of discussion between different humans in this case, but can be different parties. And so we sort of like took inspiration from that kind of design from that area and asked, can forum-based interaction design be used to support these kind of interdisciplinary knowledge discovery if we are talking about a multi-agent system setting? And that's how we arrived at the initial thought of the design of the Perspectra system, where we actually try to integrate these kind of online forum design features with a multi-agent system um, based knowledge discovery and also research ideation system. And there are three major sort of like the design features we propose. One is that we're trying to, so through the design, the combination and the proposed of the novel design, we're trying to enhance user control in a multi-agent system driven, knowledge heavy exploration process. And the second part is that we want to visualize and allow users to digest the thinking process during a multi-agent collaboration, or in this case, mostly deliberation. As a group of multiple LLM-based agents. And also for individual agents, we offer features to enhance the interpretability and explainability behind individual agents, both their profile and their actions and reasonings. And let's have sort of like a quick walkthrough of the proposed feature of the system. The first one is the threaded forum interface, where we basically try to integrate or visualize the whole discussion between multiple agents in an online threaded forum interface sort of layout. And basically, the users can interact with these agents like they are interacting with online discussion posts in an online forum. But basically, they can also do these kind of nested interactions within a thread, or even create a new thread beyond one to separate the different topics. But the participants are actually large model-based agents that have individual memories, thoughts, reasonings, and their knowledge graph. I will talk about maybe the more detailed implementation later on, but basically the agents are participants that can jump around threads, but the context of discussion are constrained mostly in a thread. And there could be multiple threads, happening in parallel, and also in a nested manner. That is the major difference between this and a single thread linear chat layout, and that was usually adopted in current chat systems. And the second feature is like we call it the what if panel. It's basically that within a thread, you can request a certain agent to jump in and see their responses, and these agents can take different stance or deliberation act, which we'll discuss later on. But this feature basically allows users to do this kind of what if exploration. What if this agent jumps in? What if this agent takes this particular stance? And see what their reasoning traces and the hypothetical response could be. And also there is this inline at mention feature, which is basically a reply feature. You can think of if you are using a online, social media platform or online discussion forum like Reddit or Twitter, where you can basically just reply to one of the post or responses made by an agent, and then there will be agents post back response to you, and you can add different agents to invite them into the discussion, etc. And the last one is basically if you have a particular response within a thread you're specifically interested in, we have a feature that actually allows users to use that as a root a root discussion topic and start up a new kind of thread from there. And there's a different section of features. I'm probably not going to dive deep in at this point, but essentially we also visualize the reasoning traces and in the form of deliberation dynamics, including their rationales and sort of like overview of the discussion that has been happening. We also implemented a semantic zooming feature, which basically means because you'll be looking at a lot of different responses posted by multiple agents, and when you zoom out, you will see the actual text. But if you oh, sorry, if you zoom in, you'll see the actual task, but if you zoom out, you only see like a more higher level summary, like a keywords. So that helps. We aim that feature basically is designed to help user better or more easily navigate, the whole picture and support scaffold as well. And two other feature of the system basically helps the user to see the inner working of a particularly chosen agent. This includes what kind of paper that the agent has in their knowledge base, and also what are the past thought snippets the agent has basically had internal thoughts. And these are I'll probably talk about that just in a minute of what that actually means. So for individual agents, when we design these agents, they have three major parts. One is the agent itself, which is the model that it uses, and also each agent, each of the agent uses the React framework, which is basically they have this inner loop that they think and plan and then respond. And they can also use tool calls, and the tool calls basically includes two things. One is it can use tools to do this kind of online search using our predefined tools that calls like the Semantic Scholar API and the OpenAlex API to do this online web search to grab relevant papers when they discuss a research topic. And then they can use tool calls to actually put the papers they find relevant into their own knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph is actually a graph vector database that we use a modified version of LiteRag in this case. So what it means is that the agent have this kind of access to a persisted knowledge graph that stores the concepts and the relations plus the paper's truncated kind of like snippets of text, and also the metadata, of course, the titles and abstract, etc. And they can use tools to pull that information out from their own knowledge graph. And individual agents also have configurations like their personas, and the personas, um, uh, how we derive the personas. We also have a set of methodology we discuss more detailing in the paper, but we'll probably not. I'll probably not talk about the details here. And they have their memories. The memories includes long-term and short-term memories. Long-term memories basically the thought snippets I talked about earlier, and short-term memories is basically compositional context that stays within one single thread. And most importantly here is that we this is basically the system prompt engineering, but we define this deliberation framework that basically we forces each agent to consider what action it's going to take before it makes a potential response, and it can only pick from this framework. This particular deliberation framework that basically we derived by summarizing existing some of the most important influential existing works that talks about deliberation speech acts. Basically, this is more about human when they get together and have a deliberation about the topic, what kind of speech acts there could be, and we summarize them and synthesize them into a new framework, and basically devise this framework and ask agent to follow this. And this includes proposing an issue or proposing a claim, and then you as an agent can support some other agents support or some other agent's claim or the user's claim, or you can disagree with it, or you can raise a question about it, etc. So so without using this, it's more going to be a you know sycophantic kind of discussion rather than a critical discussion between multiple agents. But after deploying this framework, we do see more dynamics during the discussion. And how do we evaluate the system? We basically propose a controlled two-condition user study by comparing our system with a controlled condition, which is a baseline that just uses the linear chat. And we do have recruited 18 participants to actually work on the whole study that we designed that lasts for um, uh, 90 minutes to actually 2 hours. But we break them into two sessions where the user actually used two different conditions to explore two different topics, but it's counterbalanced to make sure there is no outer effect or learning effect. And the results are actually quite interesting. So the biggest takeaway or the biggest and most important finding I think for me is that our system actually uh, doesn't significantly because we introduce a lot of things. So it doesn't. The findings is that it doesn't significantly increase users' cognitive load, but it does improve users' critical thinking activities when they use the system in certain categories. This includes, sorry, I think this at this point I should probably talk about more about the proposal quality. So when we talk about, so the proposal is an artifact that generated by user after using the system. And we do found that system actually significantly improves certain aspects of that artifact, which is basically the user was invited into the system to develop an rough idea, and the final outcome is the proposal. And we find out that our system actually helps them uh, uh, produce better quality proposals in categories like clarity, feasibility, and also relevance comparing to a baseline condition. And this is a more qualitative analysis, like comparison of a proposal or basically the final artifact produced by the system plus the user. And you can see that the actual proposal written with the baseline is a lot more copy paste, and comparing to the proposal that was developed using our system in this case, in this particular user's case, that was actually more structured and more edits on the motivation section as well, which also indicates sort of like a deeper reflection on their initial research idea. And I was also trying to talk about the critical thinking activity part. During the analysis, we actually coded or analyzed the user's interaction with the agents. Uh, um, in our treatment condition, it's the reply or the message the user type in to in response to different agents. But in the baseline condition, it's going to be the chat messages. So we basically annotated those messages individually. And we found that there are certain categories where the user actually engage in larger proportions, significant larger proportions of these kind of critical thinking, high level critical thinking activities, including application analysis, inference, and evaluation. But this result is a little bit abstract. There are some examples I can show that. In this case, it's more straightforward. For example, we found that users actually use our system to scaffold understanding through reasoning from different agents' perspective, and they also were able to contextualize their ideas in domains they are not initially familiar with, and they also we also saw them request demonstrations, like for example, in this case, the at. Sorry, there's a typo, but essentially they request an agent to explain or situate this by giving them an example. And I think I'm probably running out of time, so I'm not going to talk more detailly about these two case studies. But to summarize, try to summarize the key takeaways of the research. We do found that our proposed perspective system actually allows user to by allowing user to choose and involve specific agents. It leads to more critical thinking activities and better, artifact refinement. In this case, the research proposal refinement than traditional linear chat design, and the user steered deliberation enables dynamic selection, and basically panelization or forming of expert groups on the fly. We do find this design to actually helps user to perform this kind of problem decomposition on the fly, and also they also help them do this more target exploration of unfamiliar topics, and also the visualization feature we proposed of the agent's deliberation act also helps them synthesize perspectives that they previously are not, maybe familiar with. And we also propose three the design implications for future system designs that aims to use, multi-agent systems in an interactive manner. And essentially, to summarize, there are three key points. One is that future research can actually potentially use more critical perspective, like critical, deliberations, or sometimes even dissentful responses from an agent to generate more critical responses, containing more critical perspectives rather than, sycophantic responses to help the users thinking and knowledge discovery. And the other thing is, while features like manual threading introduce frictions in cognitive load or cognitive processes, they do promote critical thinking behaviors. And when designing systems for knowledge intensive purposes like ideation purposes, we should consider this kind of design to purposefully introduce productive friction. And the last thing is that we can also propose a hybrid approach when there are scenarios the user want to do search rather than ideation more, or vice versa, the other way around. And you can maybe allow the user to actually, dynamically or adaptively choose which mode to go. And that's the last proposed design implication. And yeah, that's I think that's all for my presentation. I think it took a little bit longer than what I should have done. But yeah, any questions are welcome. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much for the great talk. The floor is open for questions. So anyone from the audience or from the panelist audiences, feel free to speak out for questions. Your questions are prioritized to compared to my questions. But I also do have a lot of questions because I'm coming from the background of building research trained AI as well, right? Which is kind of trying to help people do research using AI somehow. So yeah, related to this, I have a lot of questions as well. I can probably start with one question. In the meantime, you can also prepare some questions and you can type it or you can raise your hand or you can also type on Slack. So one question from my side is, I think this is, first of all, a very nice approach. And I think this is the right approach as well, because, like relying purely on AI to do research full cycle is a nonsense to me because we are defining what is important research questions, and also eventually I tend to believe in AI being built to help humans right achieve their goals, and their goals and their intentions are only available to humans. So at some point you need some human in the loop. And I think the current trend is always trying to kind of leave out humans from the loop. So that's a little bit disappointing, and we should have more understanding of how to incorporate humans better in the system. And I think this is a very nice addition, contribution from this perspective. So, but the tool that you developed is not only for research, in my opinion, right? Not only for kind of writing like grant proposals, but I feel like this is more general framework for helping humans do the thinking, like do their cognitive process better. So I wonder if you wish to also frame this in a more kind of broad application scenario.
Yeah, that's a really good question. and the point as well. And thanks for also talking about the human in the loop part. I completely agree. That's also like my general point when I conduct my dissertation research topic or basically the major thesis behind that as well. That completely agree. And also I think regarding the question of whether this is more of a general thinking approach. I think so, and I think actually in the initial design of the system, it's definitely a general, more like critical thinking framework rather than one for research. And the reason we choose research as sort of like a domain uh, that this research is based on is mostly for evaluation is because like research ideation is more like a cognitively heavy task or domain that is more because we want the user to actually acquire information or knowledge, do this knowledge discovery plus ideation. And I think this is actually hard a hard scenario to actually do a controlled study within. And research ideation is relatively a easy choice of for evaluation is because we can actually find a lot of researchers to do it. But definitely when we talk about generalizing this approach, it can be easily generalized for any knowledge intensive um, ideation task, like any or even beyond that, like any task that requires currently anyone that wants to use deep research for brainstorming purposes, we this should be able to easily extend to that kind of scenarios. And I think the other point is that there is this difference between when we talk about interdisciplinary research is because um, during research we depend more on papers and also the expertise from different field. But if we talk about other sort of ideation, there is a less, well defined the line of that, if that makes sense. But rather a combination of knowledge from different topics, or maybe there isn't a clear line between that. Right? Unlike research, there are, clear. Maybe there are not clear definition, but there are these concepts of domains. And when we talk about interdisciplinary research, then there are this hidden, assumption that the researchers are from different background and field, and they share maybe a little bit different sort of like epistemology or even methodology. They usually tend to, choose to go to, and so there is definitely a little bit nuance when we talk about generalization, but yeah, that's I think that's definitely something I would I would consider uh, the generalization of this framework and also system to other ideation tasks.
Thanks for the great answer and structured answer as well. Um, so in the meantime, we didn't have any questions so far, so I'll go with the second question, um, which is about creativity, like how to help people think of something, some links that didn't used to be there, right? So I wonder if your system can also potentially help with this creative thinking. And if you think so, what would be the mechanism by which the agents can help people think more creatively?
Yeah, that's also that's also a very another great question as well. I think creativity is I think definitely we actually have sort of like an earlier work um, that was before this work is sort of inspired by that. That work is I'm not sure if I can actually share screen to point to that paper. If that will be easier to actually make
I mean, yeah,
to my
feel free
point
to do that.
visually. Sounds good. Thanks. Just one sec. So we have a previous work that is called persona flow. That's just one sec. Am I sharing the correct screen? Oh, yes, I think so. So this is
Yeah.
actually the work that inspired this work. So this work I'm presenting is sort of like a follow-up work on that. So this work more talks about the creativity um, in terms of research ideation, and this work basically use the the concept of a mixture of diverse exploration and diverse and in-depth exploration using also LLM agent, but in this case, it's not multi-agent communication, but rather just use the concept of different agents would have different personas, and the persona basically represents the background of the individual agents. And so I think intuitively thinking, if you have three different agents, each from a different domain. Basically, in this case, their background and their access to the relevant literature are different. Then they should propose different ideas, or even better, just help you expand an idea in different ways. And that's like the general idea behind this is that if you have multiple agents that actually helps you do that, then you as a user can actually absorb ideas and information from different domains and then create new ones. And this one we actually discussed that a little bit, but more from the angle of how to balance between um, the this kind of depth first or like diversity first approach. And we do evaluate creativity as well, but actually, maybe not in this paper. Um, yeah, the finding isn't really clear on this paper, but so basically we do ask, but we evaluate in a way that we ask the users to self-evaluate. Um, but this is actually there's a limitation to that as well because so first self-evaluation is always less accurate than having a expert evaluation. That's one thing. The other thing is that uh, we, even if we ask someone to evaluate the creativity of an idea, it is really hard to define like what is creativity itself, right? There are multiple dimensions to this. Um, but in this case, I think we're just more talking about like how different or novel this idea is when we do the evaluation. But yeah, I think this is probably not less like a direct answer to your initial questions. But I think to summarize or coming back to the point is that so how multi-agent systems or this kind of like mind map based interactive sorry this kind of like either threat based or mind map based interaction can help improve creativity in research ideation is through helping user combine the knowledge or the information provided by agents that is from different background, and this can be a mixture or a hybrid mode of with both a diversity driven or in depth driven approach. But basically, I think the research question that should be answered here is that how do we achieve a balance in between these two? And there are different use cases that could be one thing, like maybe in the earlier stage of research exploration, then we should probably do more diverse exploration rather than in-depth exploration, and maybe at a later stage, it's gonna be vice versa. But yeah, this I don't think this is a direct answer to your question, but hopefully it helps a
But
little
this is
bit.
a good answer. I mean, that answered most of my questions. Um, it leads me to another question actually, which is whether we have all the ingredients for creative ideas within the realm of agents, or do we need some human in the loop to generate creative ideas? Um, I guess, yeah, it's very difficult to come with a definition of creativity, but I guess it has to be novel, but also useful, right? Somehow. But I guess
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, please go
I
ahead.
don't know how to define it. Do you have any thoughts on this? Like whether yeah, purely multi-agent system can also come with something useful and novel at the same time?
Yeah, that's actually very interesting because I think I think practically currently how people evaluate, especially in research ideation, I think people do rely on some past theories, they aiming to evaluate creativity, and the one I'm familiar with is called Bolden's criteria, and it basically breaks down the computational creativity concept into three different dimensions. One is novelty, the other is surprise, or I think this is actually something that also discussed as surprisal in some works relevant to a large language model evaluation, and the last one is actually value. Value, I think it's the usefulness concept you were discussing earlier, but that's one of many frameworks that we can use to evaluate creativity. But I think this is really a underexplored direction as of now, because there are many works that works on uh, building reward models for for reinforcement learning purposes for large language models, but there hasn't been a lot that focuses on enhancing models' creativity in certain ways because I think first I think most of all is that because it's very hard to define and hard to evaluate, but maybe through frameworks like Golden's criteria and some other uh, frameworks as well. Maybe we can develop some kind of rubrics to actually be able to we can quantify the creativity of maybe we can start from research ideation and then others. But if we can actually try to tackle this problem, like how to train model or uh, tune models to improve their creativity, that would be super interesting, I think.
Thanks for the great um, answer. We have one raised hand from Mayank.
Yeah, hi. I would like to ask about the architecture and the number of agents that you have used. So
Yeah.
I think so there must be a verification agent too involved, uh, in which like you focus on the results which are kind of not hallucinated.
Oh, sorry. Just one sec. I'm trying to reshare my screen. So you were talking about, I think you were talking about the verification agent, but can you be a
Yeah.
little bit more specific on,
Uh,
sorry,
like
I probably
you
missed that later half of your question. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you have your claim and your what you had shown previously on the slides regarding the number of the process it goes through and the number of agents. Yeah, the uh, agent deliberation framework, the agent memory, the persona. Do you like? I didn't see a verification agent here. So for hallucination and other things, do you have that here?
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, the direct answer is no, but I think that is because this work mostly focuses on as for observational purposes for the user to observe the deliberation process that happens amongst multiple agents. So it's more about introducing interactions or designs to help user better digest information. But
Mm-hmm.
what you said, about hallucination and the other potential drawbacks from agents making mistakes in their response is definitely a valid issue. That could I think that definitely could be improved by adding a verifier or verification agent or a
Mm-hmm.
reviewer agent.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
templates design could be to address that. And yeah, but I think for now in this research we don't really look into that yet because our focus is
Okay.
mostly about how to have user look at different angles of things and have
Mm-hmm.
them synthesize the result.
Yeah,
But
because
that's
like
definitely
I'm
a
coming
valid
in
concern, I
from
would say.
the engineering like point of view, and like there you have agent that kind of gives proper verification to the all the things that we have thought of previously, and then and the work that we have done. And plus, like, do you also have a kind of code and like a planning agent too, which kind of gives you a brief example of a code plus with like weights and biases integration that you can quickly log your experiments on, that if you have a particular GPU?
Oh, I think if I'm understanding correctly, there are two parts to your question. One is that do I have a planner, like a
Yeah.
planner agent to plan the whole? I would say no, because currently it's more sort of like, I would say this work in terms of the technical pipeline. It's less like a orchestrator worker kind of scenario
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about multi-agent team. It's more, this one is more like this, social simulation, like
Mm-hmm.
when you have multiple agents, they actually work, behave on their own during the interaction without a planner or a centralized, orchestrator. That in that case, we actually see the agents, talking to each other more freely, and that we see new stuffs where they basically debate with each other. That's something we actually, the design is aiming for. That's why we didn't have a planner in planner element in
Okay.
a planner agent in the design. And I think the second part you were talking about, do we have like a logging scenario? Sorry, logging mechanism for the experiment? And we don't
A
because we are
kind of
sorry.
basic coding mechanism that you quickly give a basic, like bare bones Python implementation of the idea that you had, and like the researcher can go ahead and like that directly copy paste that block of code and into his IDE, and then like
Oh,
perform experiments based on that.
got it, got it. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a brilliant design suggestion actually. So you were talking
Hmm.
about like having the agent be able to even produce like code or research
Yeah.
artifacts beyond just
Hmm.
ideas. Yeah, I would. That's definitely something that I would hope the system to integrate as a feature in the future. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but for now we don't have it, but it's definitely something good to have. And thanks for
Cool.
the
Thanks.
suggestion.
Um, Thanks. So since there's no other question, I wish to ask another question, which is about kind of the real kind of research scenario, which is so what I like to learn when I'm at a conference, for example, is to learn the current trend, like what people care about and where the field as a whole is going to. And uh, I wonder how we can incorporate that into a multi-agent system, basically. So
Mm,
I was wondering if there's any idea or if there's any benefit of having multiple users and multiple agents at the same time in the same system. So I think this is multi-agent now and with a single user, right? So
right.
now that you have the forum structure, I wonder, I mean, it's kind of a natural structure where you can invite more users to kind of exchange ideas. So I was wondering if there's also possibility to enjoy more, I don't know, like general um, trends in ideas by involving more users in the forum.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely an interesting idea. I would have to say that's like the next idea for the next paper, probably.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's very, yeah, that I would say that's very interesting even to me. And the other part I think you mentioned in like sort of like going to the conference, etc. I think it'd be interested to actually have the other angle is probably like you can have agent represent uh maybe a researcher, but not like they are actually in the discussion. You can even have an agent, but there are a lot of like, I think considerations around that. Could be is that maybe you can create sort of like digital twin of yourself if you're a researcher, but that would be an agent that can take part in the research direction that is parallel to you as a human can have the capacity of taking part in. And then you would have, if you have that kind of like copy or like a digital twin version of agents, you can even have them, discuss with multiple actually human researchers and or maybe plus, other agents. And then in that case, you can explore potential topics you as a actual real human researchers might be interested in, but you would have infinitely mm, times more more times the capacity to actually explore potential research topics. But in that case, you would be talking to both human and the agents as well. And no, that's just my thoughts on how why that would be beneficial to have like human plus agents in a discussion. But that sounds like a probably sort of like very ambitious, both
Mhm.
research wise and ethics wise.
Mm.
Right.
So we can have sort of a panelist talk during a workshop, and we can include yeah, Geoffrey Hinton without actually inviting him, and listen to what he would have said in this panelist talk, something like that.
Yeah, I would love to see that in action.
Mm. I'm super into this kind of digital twin idea as well, actually. Um, having I mean, there are certain individuals who do not have much time to spare, but their ideas are valued a lot. Um, so, of course, there are ethical privacy concerns and everything. Um, but if I think if both parties agree, like the subject
Right.
from whom we are taking the twin and the audiences who are fully aware that they are talking to a fictitious entity rather than a real person, then there's a lot of market basically to have this as a product. And
I agree.
we'd
Yeah,
be
totally
interested in
agree.
kind of listening to. It would be super nice to have a panelist or have a committee of all these great names as panelists for kind of evaluating my grant proposal, basically. So with their latest ideas. Um, so yeah, I think this is a really great idea and has a lot of potential, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah, I would love to actually have more follow-up discussion if you're interested
Mm.
in that.
Definitely, yeah. I'll be super interested in continuing the discussion after the session, which we can
Sounds
do
good.
on Slack, yeah, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and so likewise for everyone else who has more questions, please use Slack channel to continue the discussion with Iran. And let's thank the speaker, Iran, for presenting a very nice work and leading a great discussion about AI for science and having human in the loop in the process. Yeah, so this is it for the session today. I wish to emphasize again that this session has been recorded and will be edited and put on YouTube. So if you wish to opt out at any point, please let us know. We can do edits as you like. Yeah, so this is it for today, and thank the speaker again, Iran.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening and the questions. Great discussions as well.
Thank you so much. And there's no further session today. Thanks. See you again. Bye.
Bye.